How was your week?
What was the question?
How was your week?
Oh,
Everybody have a good week?
interesting.
Interesting week.
Eventful.
Eventful, okay. Yeah, I had a busy week. When I started writing my sermon, it was like what's today? Sunday? It was last Tuesday, I think. So it was a week, but now it's more like 10 days. And the title of today's message is Winter is Coming. If you've not seen Game of Thrones, that probably doesn't mean anything to you. Did anybody see Game of Thrones? John has. So what does Winter is Coming mean?
It's the people from the north, this group, the age when, the cold and the dead, this one group of the dead or the supernatural dead are coming to take over all of the lands.
Sure.
Most of the Game of Thrones is these different groups fighting with each other, but then they have this common enemy that's ultimately coming to destroy all of them, that they have to eventually unite around.
Sure, they united to defeat the common enemy. That's right. The evil undead from the north, right? So winter is coming means tough times are ahead, difficult times are ahead, and and so my message today. Originally, I was thinking about like 1 week, like a week in my life, what it's like to be a pastor for. And then I thought, a week in 10 days. And then I thought, maybe the last week, the last days of September. But eventually, in the middle of the night, I woke up and I said, oh, winter is coming. It's better than the last days of September. It was a busy week because, well, for one thing, there was a lot of meetings. And if you love meetings, I encourage you to become a pastor. And last Thursday, the Thursday before last, we had a pastor's meeting. And this is I'm just trying to be very honest here. I feel like sometimes we're not honest enough about what's going on in our lives. And these meetings, they're a challenge, frankly, especially for me. Because I don't always toe the line.
Pastor's meeting with who?
The pastor's meeting that we have usually every Thursday would be with Dr. Ashiel, and it's the pastors of SR2, Subregion 2. So it would be pastors from Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. And then it's further divided from big churches, small churches, and home churches. We're considered a small church. Small meeting, something like that. So we had these pastor meetings, and there are 3 or 4 points that we're supposed to talk about. The first one is the Chun Shimwan, because that's very important to Mother right now, and also to Dr. Ashiel. Sunday service attendance, fluctuates, it goes up and down, but, And then inreach, I'll talk about that a little more. Inreach to what we might call inactive members or sleeping members that we don't see at church, so on a regular basis. And then outreach, witnessing efforts. So my report, the week before Thursday, I talked about the Chun Shimwan first, and I look a little slim on that point because I don't like long prayers. And I really, Kevin Thompson, who's this kind of well-respected minister in San Francisco, he said he doesn't like long prayers. And I said, he's my brother. I can resonate with that. I don't like long prayers because it's just words. I can't feel anything. So how do you guys do it? 7 minutes, 21 minutes, 3 days, 3 hours prayer. How do you guys do it? Does anyone have an inspiration for how you make a 3-hour prayer inspiring? Yes, Sharon.
I think singing songs and
Okay.
reading,
Uh-huh.
as well as, and also, don't beat yourself up that you're just sitting there and
Mhm.
nothing's coming.
Right.
Because when the right part comes to your heart, then you'll be able to pray.
Right.
And you don't know, many times it's not your own personal issues. It could be historical, it could be about America, it could be about one person. Then all of a sudden you feel something, and that's when you can start praying. So you have to be kind to yourself and be patient.
Mhm.
You know, and sometimes you just feel like foolish, you know, like, well, I don't feel anything, I don't feel anything.
Right.
Give yourself a chance.
There's definitely a block, right? It's hard, you have to get beyond that block. It's not easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I just can share something that,
Okay.
sometimes you're in a situation in your daily life and you see that maybe a pitiful situation or something that really touches you and moves your heart. So if you pray about that, a particular heart begins to open, and you can move because you're praying with feelings, you're emotionally connected to that experience. I've had that happen. If I remember that, then I can get in touch with my inner heart, and pray, and then you can continue that prayer. If you try to pray without any feeling, it's just like being a stone wall. For me,
Right. I heard someone say once that when they pray about the saints, the situations the saints went through, it can help to open your heart and God can move in you. So, but anyway, so for me to report in a pastor's meeting about the Chuncheon, you know, I have to rely on people like Ann and Stephanie and Sharon that use the Chuncheon. Who else uses the Chuncheon? Well, we want to encourage that if we can. You know, but we're not going to force it. And there are, you know, there's plenty of opportunity to use the Chuncheon during the morning devotion. It's okay to come here and use the laptop and connect with morning devotion here. There's a prayer on Wednesday mornings at 9 o'clock, and I think that's centered on Las Vegas, right? And there's one on Friday centered on Korea by Zoom call, and they're 3-hour prayers. But God bless those who join. You know, as a pastor, I stand on the foundation of those who pray, so I respect you. When I want to pray, sometimes I go to the gazebo. We have a gazebo by our house. It looks out in the woods. It's beautiful. I go there, and sometimes I don't even say anything. I just listen. And then I reported about Sunday service attendance. You know, I really would like to turn it around and have everybody gather, a lot of people gather for the Sunday service. But, you know, we have to make the Sunday service interesting. That's something we can talk about. How to make it more, you know, more interesting, more fun, more, you know, whatever. And then when I report about the witnessing efforts, again, I rely on our witnessing members, Ann and Tim and Sharon and who else is actively witnessing? I mean, me, I just, you know, if people ask, what do you do? Then I'm happy to share with them about our church. It's natural witnessing. But to go out and stop people. And I witnessed that last week because we had a book table at NC State on Friday. And John and Sharon were there, and I was there. I was giving out flyers. That's fun. I was giving out flyers. But John and Sharon, they stop people. They talk for 10 minutes. So that's, yay. Go ahead. And the reason we were there is because tomorrow we're going to have a suicide prevention talk by Ron Papalardo at NC State. It's from 6 to 8, I believe. It's about a couple hours. And this is timely. I mean, suicide prevention is a big issue on college campuses right now because it's an endemic. I mean, it's a big problem. A lot of kids are taking their own lives. So this is something that's timely. We want the students to come and listen. Ron Papalardo is the right person to give this message because he's researched it a lot. And so anyway, I'll go. You know, if you're available, please attend. well, we might do it a second time, I think, right? And I had fun. I had fun meeting the students, but it shouldn't have been us. It should have been the young people. The students would have responded much better to. Did you do it last Friday? A couple of days ago? Was there a book table on Friday?
I can't understand the question.
Was there a book table on Friday?
Yes.
Yes, and actually Ron showed up, not for the book table, but just, he wanted to go upstairs and look at the room.
Okay.
But he said he had a dream,
Okay.
and he said so many people came on Monday night.
Okay.
He said he's so excited.
Okay. Promising. Did our student friend?
Oh, actually, I found it was a really good day Friday. I met one really, really amazing person, and another person. She's a majoring in psychology, and she had mental illness. So, the kids are so smart. They take a picture of it instead of taking the whole flyer,
Right.
which saves us a lot of money.
Sure.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
So, people are interested. And the sign that Chetna made a nice big sign, a
Yes.
white sign, and that helps so much.
Right.
It says suicide prevention.
Yes.
So when people were walking, before they got to the table, they could see the sign.
Right.
So it was a good day Friday.
In my life of faith in the church I went to the fundraising team early on, soon after I joined the church, and then it became a sales team, and then I went to the restaurant business. So I come from a business background. I never did any witnessing in the church. I had no foundation at all for witnessing. And the few times that I did go out witnessing, it was very frustrating. So it's a tough road for me. It really is. When I was on the business mission, this is interesting. When I was in the restaurant business, even when I was on MFT, he never went to church. Go figure, right? So I gave a report, I gave an honest report, and I have an advantage over many of the other pastors because many of them are Japanese sisters, and their English is not as crisp as mine. So I thought, that's a pretty good report, but Dr. Shio wasn't that inspired. He said, you have to do more to inreach the sleeping members. And I didn't say anything. I could have said, I'm busy or something. And we've done some inreach. Ryoko and I went around to many of your houses for a Bible study. And it's Ryoko yesterday visited a Japanese sister who's studying in Greensboro. So we're trying. We're trying, but we want to do more inreach to sleeping members. Sharon visited Adita Woodward in, where did she live?
And also Emilio Mandel came to our house last week. And I'm sorry, Bob, I'll start reporting more to you.
Okay.
Because you are on that call on Thursday.
Right.
I need more goodies to give to them about moving on.
I'm not one of those pastors that tries to show, all I've done.
But we can share a little bit.
But yeah, I would definitely like to tell them those things that we are doing. And also, they want us to monitor the Chuncheon usage. So we can talk about that in the community meeting today. But maybe we need like a register and people can sign in when they pray. Because they're asking. All right. So I was disappointed. Dr. Shio didn't say, oh, you had a great report or anything like that. And so I thought, okay, I'll skip next week. I'll skip next week. But I could hear John Henry's voice. He always tells me, he always says, that's not what leaders do.
It's not what?
That's not what leaders do. It's not what leaders do. My other struggle is writing sermons. It's tough, and I'm really grateful for those who, that we have a rotation of other people that are willing to do the sermons. Thank you. What do you talk about? It's always a struggle for me. What do I talk about? Are some topics off limits? There's some things you shouldn't talk about. And it should be inspiring. Is indemnity inspiring? How about repentance? Is it inspiring? you want to hear about theology? Do you? Yeah. I mean, I like theology, but it's hard to make it interesting. So it can be anxiety producing. And I remember Monroe, he always tells this story how he's probably thinking about it all week, but then on Saturday he starts to write his sermon. He would always start to write his sermon Saturday night. And then he said, it was nothing. It was writer's block. Nothing was coming. Until Sunday morning, 2 a.m. And then it would always flow. The whole sermon would come. That's amazing. That's amazing. It was like he was sure that would happen. Now, I'm not up Sunday morning at 2 a.m. So God knows he has to work quicker than that. So last week, I did give the sermon last week. I talked about True Mother. And, once things started coming, it just flowed. I mean, it just flowed easily. But there are so many times when I wrote a sermon and I looked at it and I read it back to myself and I said, this is garbage. And I threw it away and started over. I almost did that last week, but I touched base with Alan and I said, this is what I've got. I read this story from a rabbi and I started building on it. And he said, it's good. Keep going with that. So I retained it. I didn't throw it away. And there were only, how many people were here last week? 10? 12? Who was here? About 12 people listening to the sermon, or in the whole building. Probably listening. I think listening to the sermon, there were probably 12 people. The sermon was called Mother Trust Us. And there was 12 counting Ryoko and me, and Mark. There was 12 of us. And there was one thing that I was a little unsure about, but it made me happy. Our young families went to Sunday school. Benji's family, Hami's family, Eugен's family, the Hendricks family. And they were there watching the kids and talking and having a good time. And I thought, this is great. That's what I want them to do. They don't have to come here and listen to a sermon. They can just hang out in the Sunday school room, and I think that's wonderful. So I really encourage that. That's where the moments are like.
Oh, should we go there now?
You're free. You can do anything you want. You can do either. But I don't discourage that. Not for 1 minute. So why was this week so busy? Because we had the bequeathing ceremony in Havelock. Havelock's where I grew up. This is Carter County, Craven County, Havelock, Market City. This is where I went to school. I grew up there. And there's a Unification Church presence there. I'm the only member from that area that I know of. There's nobody else. And yet the Unification Church there doesn't just have a presence, but I mean, they're blowing it out of the water. It's amazing what's going on there. Originally, I think that we're going to have a small bequeathing ceremony to bequeath the candles and give them to the churches. There were 8 churches that needed the candles for the Chuncheon, the prayer room. So it's going to be, when we had an opening ceremony here, it wasn't advertised. It was just small. And I think that we're going to do that there originally. But when Bishop Kim, who's the president of the Chuncheon in America, when he found out what was going on, and that it was the first Chuncheon prayer room on a Christian church campus, and mothers coming, to speak this week, then he came. He decided to come, and then it grew into quite a large production. But it was really beautiful. It was really wonderful. It was historic, actually. And Dr. Ishio came, and I drove down with Alan Saunders. And originally I was supposed to pick up Bishop Kim and drive him down. And then Alan said, well, you have to get a nice car. It has to be a VIP car. It has to be a Lincoln. And I struggle about that because, I know our members are, sometimes they're giving everything, financial situation is not good, their health situation is not good, the situation with children may not be good, whatever it is, or families are struggling, but I get it. I get it because, Bishop Kim represents True Mother, and True Mother represents God, and we don't give our leftovers to God. When Jesus was here, Judas asked him, he said, why are we spending this money, on fine ointment for your hair? We could be spending it on money, to take care of the poor. And Jesus said, the poor you have with you always, but me you don't have always. And when I read that, I thought, it was so true in the time of Jesus, because he didn't have a wife, he didn't have a family, he didn't have children. But how fortunate we are, how blessed that we have true parents, we have children, we have the Messiah's family, the grandchildren. Right? We will always have true parents representatives on the earth, because this lineage will go forever. We're really such fortunate people. And would we be struggling like we are today if that had happened at the time of Jesus? No. It would be the kingdom of God on earth. I can only imagine. A busy week for me means a lot of consultations with Reverend Saunders. And he's my good friend. So I can't say that he's controlling. Has anybody ever heard that word? Is he controlling? Anybody thinks he's controlling? I asked him that question as we were driving around just June. Your wife think you're controlling? And what do you think his answer was?
Yes.
I shouldn't say that. I hope he forgives me. But he tolerates all the stuff I say, right? I mean, I can say anything with Alan. With my wife, with Alan, I can say anything. And because we're family. And, even if I say something that's completely off the wall, I'm forgiven. I know I'm forgiven. And that's one reason why I really like Alan. The other is that he has a vision for North Carolina. He doesn't think about, when I became the pastor here, I made it clear that I am more concerned about the local church. About the church politics, not concerned. And the directions that come down from headquarters, I rely on my congregation to help us, do all the stuff that we're asked to do. And we're asked to do a lot. But Alan's different. He has a vision for all of North Carolina. And I think after Alan, I think Devetta does. And there's a good chance that Alan will become the educational czar, the leader of our region, and that Devetta might be our next state representative. And I think she'd do great. I think she's perfect. So I spent a lot of time with Alan this week, and it was wonderful. We talked about everything. But I am concerned about our movement on the bigger levels, the national level, the regional level. Especially after talking to Alan, because he knows what's going on and I don't. And after talking to Tim, because he went to the Rebirth 2 workshop in Washington. And Gail, but I haven't talked to Gail yet about it. So there's a lot going on. And one thing that I'm clear about now is that the court case against Hyunjin Moon, who Father called a pirate, and who stole all the church's assets, is not going well. It's not going well at all. They want to appeal it to the Supreme Court, but that's it's not. That may not go our way. And also, there's a big scandal in Japan right now that could result in our church losing its status as a church entity. And if that happens, it would just be a business. They'd have to pay taxes. It would be a mess. So winter is coming. And I think we're going to be asked to help out. But we don't have a lot of resources to help out with. But ultimately, the church is not this building. It's not the resources, it's the people. And that's why I am very hopeful that even though winter is coming, this church is a rock. And the very, what does Jesus say about the rock? The very, right, but it's something like the very winds of hell cannot prevail. The very rains of hell, storms of hell cannot prevail against it, something like that. Anyway, I want to watch a video from President Dunkley. And you may have seen it already, the one where he's walking around the swimming pool. But, you know, in light of all that's happened this week, let's watch it again with those eyes.